We're going to try this one more time. I don't think the live went through last time. So hello, everybody. This live, I'm going to answer some common questions I've gotten regarding the recent tour video of Camper 9.0, which has been quite popular. So I've got a few questions that were specifically given by individual viewers that I'm going to touch on, and then I'm going to roll into some of the common questions that I saw through the course of the video itself. And then at the end, I'll open it up if any of you guys have any questions on your side. It looks like we have one person watching. I always like to do a little check on volume, make sure it's coming through. So if you can just throw in a comment, just let me know that. Okay, Jay, Mike, it's good to see you. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. Well, just let me know. All right. So let's roll into some questions that were from viewers that were posted on the post that I put. Okay, perfect. You know, okay, it's good to see you guys there. All right, I got scared for a minute. I popped up a few minutes ago, and I didn't get usually I get a viewer or two right away, so I almost thought maybe I went up on a different channel or something, but it looks like we're good. Okay, let me get back into it. So yesterday I put up the post announcing this live, and I asked if someone can't join if they had some questions. So I'm going to touch on those. This is just the public-facing handle. Phil Rich 4286. He was asking about the round window in the back of the camper. I'll post a link once this live uploads in. It's just a little porthole window I got on Amazon. It's nothing special. It's plastic. It does have the glass. You know, the clear section is actually glass. Oh gosh, I think it was like 35 bucks or something. But when this uploads, I'll add in that. Oh, it's good to Dave. It's good to see you from Oregon. We got everybody. 1CM King, Mike, Steve, Andrea. It's good to see you. All right, Marcus. Good to see you. Jay. All right. So basically, it's just a little porthole window. It's nothing. You know, it's not a super expensive one. But I'll post the link. You guys can access it. TNT, it's good to see you, my friend. VL Brander, he asked in general about insulation and solar. So I'll touch on the, I hope I'm answering your question, but I'll touch on the insulation in there. This camper really had kind of three types. There was a little bit of thin slate. That's the black covered, or one side's black, the other white. It's like almost like a blanket. It kind of reminds me. So I used some of that in the cab over section, and a couple other little spots here and there. I used some XPS. That's extruded polystyrene. That's that pink, usually a pink board or a blue board, depending on the brand. I used some of that in the floor because it allows to have some pretty good compression. And then and it was also some thin slate in the roof too. I forgot about that. But then the bulk of the insulation was EPS, or expanded polystyrene. That it looks basically just like styrofoam. It's got a silver back and a little white back with some writing on it. I used that mostly, and that's what the fabric was wrapped around, and that's what was bonded to the side walls, and that's also what made up the rigid insulation pieces that were in the ceiling, I guess you would say. Hope that answered that question. Solar, I use those, I'm guessing he's probably asking about the brand. They're the Bouge RV flexible solar panels. They call them the, oh crap, the name just escaped my mind. They're the more expensive ones. They're pretty pricey solar panels. The name will come to me. I'll tell you guys later. I apologize. SIGS panels. And that's an acronym for some sort of compound that they use in the solar panel, my understanding is. So those are pretty pricey. I did spend a little bit more on those because I really liked, they did a really good job generating power, even though, you know, the whole panel was flexed as much as it was across its entire arc. The shaping of them was more conducive to being on the truck itself. And I was just hoping that they would last longer because, you know, they're a little bit higher quality. So, but that's the solar I used. Steve Cold in Wisconsin, you guys are, you know, I haven't kept up on it a lot, but my understanding is you guys are getting hit really hard. Cold down in Ottawa too. Okay, so let me answer a question that popped up right here on the feed in the live itself. Have you ever considered selling plans online? And that's from 1620 Garage and Farm. You know, I get asked all the time about that, and the the truth of the matter is that's kind of why I do the videos. Like, I don't. I guess I just feel like it would be very hard for me to put how I build them in writing, and I think that's just kind of a lack of talent on my part about communication. That's kind of why I do the videos. I'm guessing it may not be, some people might prefer hard paper plans, but no, I guess just the approach I took was the videos. I mean, I have nothing against plans, but no, unfortunately, no. The best thing is I have the build videos for all of my campers, and just watch those, and yeah, that's what I got. So Punky Rooster, your approach to building those campers really opened my mind. Yeah, why don't you, if you feel comfortable on the crowd on the group chat here, throw down exactly like in what specific way. That I'm really glad that opened your mind a little bit, and I'd like to expand on that. So I'll try to watch the comments as they go down. So, okay, so and then the final. So this is the person who wrote down a comment from the post. This was from Martha Brandis, I believe it is. I can't read my own writing. 8873, and she had a question about condensation, which is a really good question and something I haven't really mentioned much. So, I'm sure all of you guys know condensation is a big problem in campers, particularly in certain conditions. So in my case, a lot the camper's made primarily out of wood, which we can talk about later, but has some downsides. It has some pros too, which I'll talk about also. But the condensation can cause mildew. It can even cause damage in chronic cases. So when the EPS panels, first and foremost, when I built out the interior before I built anything in there, I sealed the entire inside with a couple coats of a primer. But most importantly is those EPS panels, when they bond to the wall, I use an adhesive. It's the great stuff, the expanding foam. They make a construction adhesive which doesn't expand, or not that much, but has that same adhesive quality. If you guys have ever worked with the great stuff, you certainly know how sticky it is. But when I've done some experiments where I've bonded that to the plywood, it is such a bond that you like, to get it off, you literally are just ripping apart the styrofoam essentially. So that's going to seal up that wood. Hold on a second, Punky. I just don't want to lose the comment. Just the cedar stick approach. Most people producing comments seem to work with metal and composite materials. That's a great one, Punky Rooster. I'm going to talk about that later on, and if I seem like I'm going to forget, let me know. Give me 1 second here. Do you think so? Okay, so back to condensation. Sorry about that. I just didn't want to lose that comment there. So the wood is essentially sealed up, but also, so the EPS, it is mold and mildew resistant. All materials are going to absorb a little bit of water, but the EPS absorbs very little, but there is some in there. But you got to keep in mind that on the outside, the part that faces inward, where I wrap the fabric, that is the silver-backed part. So that's going to have like a vapor barrier to itself. I'll give you one little anecdote to the condensation, which I think will show how effective those EPS panels can be, even in a case where they're not bonded to a surface. So many of you who've watched my channel before know that I also have a van that I turned into what was a camper, but I rebuilt the camper in it. And on the side, it has the two side windows, and they have glass in them, right? My personal preference is I like my campers kind of dark and closed off inside. So what I did is I cut a piece of EPS that fit perfectly with a friction fit into that molding around that door of the van. And then I wrapped it in fabric, and I wrapped the black side with black fabric. And then when you push it in with a friction fit around there, it seals up that whole window, right? Sorry, one CM King. What made you get away from the Pullout Kitchen? That's a great question. Remind me. I'll touch on that in a little bit later. Um, okay, so I'm sorry, I lost my chain of thought. Where was I? Oh crap. I was talking about the van and condensation. Okay, so there was a circumstance where I had that in place, and there was some condensation, or there was some moisture in the air in the van in certain weather conditions, and I noticed just by chance that one little small section of that window had some condensation forming on it, and it dawned on me that having that scenario was like mimicking the condensation behind a wall. I could just see it because it was glass, right? Because we talk about condensation, but sometimes it's hard to kind of visualize what that would be, right? So what I realized, because I asked myself the question, because I was like, holy crap, is, even though that's not bonded to the window, is it a permeable layer? And what I realized is in that one little section, because it didn't condensate anywhere else on the window, but in that one little section where it did, um, I hadn't made the fit tight enough, and there was a little bit of an opening. And when I tightened it up and exposed the van to similar conditions, that condensation went away. So I guess my point being is it's kind of twofold protected in that regards. I hope if you guys understand what I'm saying. But those insulating panels, if they're sealed up appropriately, they do seem to be an effective barrier against moisture. That was a long way of saying that. Okay. All right. So, so let's get back to Troy. It's good to see you, my friend. Punky Rooster. Just the cedar stick approach. Most people are producing content seem to work with metal composite materials. Okay. That's a great question. And I think that I'm going to give an answer that I think is going to be a little bit, it's going to kind of encapsulate that and really hit that point. Number one is there are many composite materials and metals and stuff that do a great job. And I certainly, have no cons against those. But I think wood, maybe rightly so in some cases, has gotten a bad reputation in campers. And but I think it's still a really good building material. And for those who don't know, all of my campers are laminated cedar frame. The frame for it is a laminated cedar boards. And in the last couple builds, I actually moved into creating traditional joinery with those, just to add a little bit of strength, but it also assisted with assembly. And I commonly get that comment. Somebody will say, "Hey, you should use aluminum for your frame. It would be lighter." But what I don't think a lot of people realize is that if you use the right wood, and cedar in this case, and you laminate it, so you're making it extra strong, but it also creates a pretty easy platform to figure in joinery. It is both light and super strong. And then on top of that, cedar is, of course, as we know, a little bit resistant to bugs and moisture and stuff like that than your common other wood, and it's very stable. And so I agree with you. Even my cedar sided campers, I mean, I think probably the initial assumption is, that's a cosmetic choice, which it is, but it's kind of like it's all show no go. But the truth of the matter is that cedar siding on there is really effective. It's a little bit heavier than the smooth sided camper like 9.0, but not by much, maybe 10 plus percent, which I think is reasonable. But that cedar has a minor insulating capacity unto its own, and it's pretty darn rugged, very strong. So I think traditional materials sometimes get a bad rap, but I think they have a really important role. I hope, my point to you, Punky, is I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I think that was a really good point. Okay, so we let's see. The next question was, why did you get away from the Pullout Kitchen? Okay, that's a great question. I don't know. At the time that I made them, I didn't really use them. Now, kind of looking back, I think I probably would have used them more, but then there's a part of me that sometimes wondered if they were a little bit more of a hassle than they were worth. At the end of the day, I just never really used them. And then, I had some, I had chatted with a person or a person or two had bought one of the campers at the Pullout Kitchen, and I found that they didn't really use it either. And I mean, I thought it was a really cool idea, but I just kind of, I don't necessarily have a strong anything strongly against them. I just kind of, moved on to using that space for other things. But I was camping not too long ago, and I was just using my tailgate. It was fine, but there was part of me that kind of thought, that it might be kind of neat to have that little pull-out kitchen. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll, maybe if I go with another project, maybe I'll go into it. But I don't know. I mean, I still think they're an interesting idea. Um, well, I mean, I'm sorry. One CM King asking that question was. A hassle in what way? I mean, I don't know. It was just like I would almost sometimes forget about it, or maybe I just want to do something short. I don't know. I mean, I think you should. I don't have anything against it. If you think it's something that would be useful to you, I would include it. Let me put it this way: the reason I got away from them wasn't that there was anything wrong with it. It was just something I did. I just kind of felt like I wasn't using as much as I thought I would. But if a person thinks that they would use it, I think it's from a technical standpoint, it's a good option. So I would just say that. Did you touch on how you put the material on the foam boards? What is the cloth? Okay, so the cloth, so the interior cloth is something called duck. I just get it at Hobby Lobby. It's like a light canvas, as that's the way it's been explained to me. And I used Super 77, and you got to keep. I sprayed on the aluminum side. You could spray it on the other side, but that adhesive will eat away because it's got some acetone in it. Will eat away at the polystyrene. So, but as long as you spray it on that aluminum side, or the foil side, or the other side, you're fine. And then you just spray it on, let it tack up, and then pull your fabric over. Of course, you pre-cut it. And you rub it down, and then when you kind of, when I mean rub it down, you smooth it out and everything, and then when you roll over the sides, you insert it into the in between the frame structures if you're doing the wooden ones, or you would spray on that great stuff foam adhesive if you're bonding it to the side of the smooth-sided campers. So the only other question, unless you guys have some more, throw them out to me, is. People asked about heat a lot, which is also a really, or no, there's two other questions I want to touch on. People ask about heat, and they also ask about the electrical system, which I didn't touch on in this review video. Let's talk about heat first. So heat in some parts of the country, I mean, Wisconsin, up there in Canada, certainly, you need heat in there. I live in the Southwest. I think don't quote me. I'm sure you can check the weather, but if it got to 60 plus degrees today, I wouldn't be surprised. It was kind of a warm day. I'm not a big fan of the cold myself either. And so my point is that when I build the campers and I plan to use them, I want to prioritize staying cool. And if I can get down in the campers to about, freezing, 32 or so. And, I turn on my little electric blanket and cover up, maybe I make some tea in there, which adds some heat. And, with the insulation, everything, and the small size, I stay toasty enough. And I largely don't really see a need to have a separate source of heat. Now, like I said, that's for me in my circumstance, and that's why I don't really put any heaters in there. But, if I were to put heat, like say if I lived, in another place that was cold, or I really like to camp in the winter, a fellow who bought one of my campers did something that I thought was really smart. He lived in the mountains, so he needed a source of heat. And where the AC pod is, he pulled out the air conditioner, and he fashioned this wooden, kind of like a little pod that slid in there, that he plumbed all of his diesel heater components in, and had a diesel heater in there. And in the wintertime, he would pull out the AC that was in the pod, he would slide in his diesel heater pod, he would run his heater, and then the summer he would swap it. I thought that was a really ingenious idea, and if I ever put in a heater, I would try to copy that idea and build a little pod that way, if that makes any sense. Now, the actual mechanics of where all the bits and pieces are in that pod, I don't know. I just saw, if I can't even remember the picture now, but I didn't get into how he built it, so that would take a little bit of figuring on someone's part as far as, where to put the burner and, plumb everything. But he made it work, and from what I understand, it's working pretty good. So that's what I would do. Let me see, what's Dave here? Did you touch on? Okay, yeah, we touched on that. Fair enough. Were you able to use 9.0? If so, what are your thoughts? Electrical function in that. So one CM King, as far as actually camping in 9.0, the truth of the matter is, unfortunately, no. I got rid of my truck just after I put it on. But I will say this, from a drivability standpoint, it was by far the best camper I've had. I thought 8.0 was really good. 9.0 was very quiet. Even less of an impact on gas mileage. I mean, the freeway, you barely would notice it was there. That darn thing really rode well. I mean, of course, like we've talked about in ad nauseum, I kind of guess on the aerodynamics a bit, but I think I guessed pretty good on that one, because it performed very well. But unfortunately, it's kind of a long story in the truck, but I had to get rid of it, and there was a variety of reasons, but I had some timing issues that I had to fall within, so I did not get to get her out and do anything significant with her. All right, let's see. Will you go back to the beautiful clad cedars from before? Yeah, there's, I'm sorry, Mark, let me read that a little clearer. Will you go back to the beautiful cedar clad exterior builds from before? Yes. So Mark, hope you didn't forget, I did that for 8.0. I just went 9.0. I did the smooth sided. I've been kind of, not purposely so much, but I've been kind of going back and forth. But yeah, the cedar sided ones, which I feel like is what you're getting to, will always have a special place in my heart. That was my first ones. That's probably my preference on the exterior. I really think the cedar has a lot of benefits from an insulation standpoint. I know on paper it doesn't seem like it, but just the anecdotes of being in them, they feel warmer. They feel there's a different character to them. So yeah, the cedar sided campers will always be my primary design, and I will always go back to them. So let's see where we're at here. JR, any chance you want to build a lightweight full-size well-installed camper like a 9x6 with the bathroom, etc.? No, I don't think so. Not for a truck. Not that I have anything against it. It's just I don't even really have a space for that in my garage. As a side note, I just realized how messy my garage looks. I'm organizing a little bit, so that's why it looks like such a mess back there. So I just don't have the facilities to, I just have a standard 2-car garage, and it's hard for me to make it that big. Troy, it's nice to get through driving and turn around and get in your bed. Think your van is the way to go? Well, that's a great question, and I've thought about this a lot. So it's a bit ironic because I'm most well known for truck campers, but if I had to be honest with you, if I could take my, let's just say, my red truck with 9.0 on it, or I could take my I have a white 95 van, an Econoline, that's a camper. If I could take them both, I would probably go with my van. The pass-through thing is nice, but it's really not as big of a deal to me as it is, I think, others. But what I do like about the van is there's no way of getting around the fact that it's 11 feet of camper space going back from the seats, the back of the seats there. So, I have a bathroom in there. I have a separate seating section and a separate bed, and you just can't get around the fact that there's more space in there. But here is where I think truck campers have a significant role. So for those who don't know, who might be watching this or watch this in the future, the van I have is a 4x4. It's a 1995. It was a Class B converted van, and then later it was converted professionally to 4x4. It has the 351 in it, which is renowned as just a wonderful engine, and that's been my experience. And the van might look mildly rough on the outside, but she is mechanically very sound. And my point to all this is, without going into the whole history of it, it is very rare to find a Class B that is also a 4x4 in a van. And if you do find them, 19 out of 20 times they're going to be a mess. With that being said, if you were a person who wanted to put a camper on and go out in the backcountry and you wanted to be able to take your camper and get those areas, now, though I think two-wheel drive is in many cases more effective than people give it credit for, from a money standpoint and from an availability standpoint, there is no way of getting around the fact that it's easier to buy a four-wheel drive truck and put a truck camper on the back. So I probably made a long explanation there, but if and this is more for, I'm fortunate because I have I have the van, but I realize that for most people the ability to find, just even physically find the van that I have would be very challenging, especially if somebody lives in another part of the world. So that's where the truck camper really has a value, because a four-wheel drive, I bet you most pickup trucks produced today are four-wheel drive. I think it's actually almost kind of rare to find just two-wheel drive trucks. You could throw a truck camper on the back of that bad boy, such as something small and light like 9.0. Now you have that same mobility of the van, but it's something that's far easier to obtain. So I still have a very special place in my heart for truck campers. It's just that's just how that works out. 1CM. Okay, where 1CM King. So where you live, are you known now for the guy who builds campers? Is your channel locally known? Meaning, are you just as popular in your home as you are on YouTube? I don't really think so. Every once in a while, I mean, of course, my immediate neighbors, know I build the campers, but I try to keep it low key. I mean, obviously, sometimes they're sitting out in the driveway, but I've been told, I might meet somebody that's a neighbor down the street or something that might mention, like, oh yeah, you're the guy that builds campers. But it's not like I drive down the street and anyone ever says anything, which I'm glad. I mean, I don't mean that in a jerk way. I just so I mean, really not. I mean, I've only been, at least that I know of, I've only been recognized like once in public, and that was like way back when my channel had like less than 1,000 subscribers. It was kind of funny. So to my knowledge, no, I'm just a random guy. So yeah. So we touched on heat. Oh, my electrical system. Okay. So the way I build my campers is all the DC stuff, lights, fans, fridge connection, all that kind of thing is wired into a common DC fuse box that's in the camper. And then the power input that is via a male cigarette lighter socket. So I didn't really go in the electrical on 9.0 because it's really plug and play with a lot of different options. So you could just take a common power bank, an EcoFlow or a Jack, whatever the names are out there, and buy one, whatever size you wanted, and you could pop that male cigarette lighter into this receptacle in the power bank, and you can run your DC. And then the only real thing in there that runs off, well, there's two things in 9.0 that run off AC, is the air conditioner itself and the microwave. But I fed both of those, the plugins for both those to be right in that same area of where a power bank would be. So you could plug it in there. Now, let's say I were to keep 9.0 and I was going to, that was going to be my camper. I personally have the setup that I built that was had the batteries and the head unit separated, where I had the dual solar charge controllers, for those who had watched that video. But I have 300 amp hours of lithium iron phosphate at 12 volts, and then I have a custom built head unit. I think I have a 2200 watt inverter, and I have a dual solar charge controller, so I can run my foldable panels if I want to. That would be the system that I would put in there. And so I didn't really go in the electrical system because it's really truly a plug and play system. It's not something that would be built in there. It would be either a power bank, or it would be, a mobile system that you could build. And I do that on purpose. Like, I know a lot of vans, well, even in my van can be removed too, but you see a lot of vans or other campers where people are screwing all the individual parts to the wall, and they're not criticizing that, but I like the Okay, so this is one CM King. The reason I say that every time I pull in somewhere, people always come up and see mine. Mine is a popular conversation piece, and that's why I asked your question about. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I appreciate that. It's weird. I don't know what happened when I first started. Years ago, I felt like I was stopped and asked questions a lot more, but I don't know if it's just the city, because I'm in Las Vegas, a relatively sizable city. I don't know if people, but I don't know. No one, I don't really get approached as much as I used to. So I feel like people in more rural communities or maybe other parts of, the world or the United States might get stopped more. But I, oddly enough, just occasionally somebody would stop and chat a little bit. But it actually slowed down in the last 2 or 3 years. So. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you would think so, but maybe it's just because I'm in kind of a sizable city and the hustle and bustle, or I don't know. So we covered heat, electrical, condensation, the rear window, which I'll add a link. We touched on insulation again and solar, and I guess the most important thing is let's see, one more question here. Where did you get the cedar planks for 8.0? Wondering if fence boards would work. John's Garage, that's your question, and you're absolutely right. I bought my cedar right there at Lowe's, and I plane it down. It comes dimensionally about 5/8 of an inch. So I plane off about an eighth of an inch, get it down to 1/2 inch, and it's time consuming, but I cut the lap joint and put them together with that caulking. So yeah, you read it. Cedar fence pickets, they work out really well. But yeah, anyways, guys, most importantly, if there's no other questions, I just want to thank everybody. This last video has done really, really well, and really shocked me. I don't think I've ever had a video. I think I'm sitting at about 230, 240 view, 230, 240,000 views, which is more than I've ever had, less than a weekend. So thank you guys so much for all the new subscribers and all of those who support so much. And okay, Dobbs, wait, I have one. In Rapier, you said, did I miss it? So this will be posted later on the channel, so you guys can watch this later if you want. Okay, Dobbs, do you have it? So Rapier P, you're asking about the heater. I touched on that earlier in the video, so if you could, just so I don't have to touch on it again, if you could just, when this reposts, just work your way through there. Oh, Dobbs. Okay. Why does it hurt when I pee? Okay. All right, guys. You guys all have a wonderful night. Thank you guys so much for everything, and I'll talk to you guys later.